Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. The Lagos night sky shimmered like a sequined fabric stretched by unseen hands. Fairy lights dangled from palm trees, casting golden halos over the rooftop garden where Amara stood. She clutched her sketchbook, her constant companion, ink still staining the edges of her slender fingers. The air buzzed with music, the laughter of Lagos elites blending into the deep hum of the city below. Then came the hush. Jide was down on one knee. A velvet box opened, revealing a diamond ring so large it caught and fractured the city lights into 1,000 fireflies. The crowd gasped, phones lifted, and cameras clicked. Jide's voice boomed with practiced confidence. "Amara Emeka," he declared, "will you make me the happiest man alive and marry me?" Amara's heart raced. She saw his dazzling smile, the sharp lines of his designer tuxedo, the expectant eyes of the gathered guests. For a fleeting moment, her childhood dreams of love and fairy tales danced before her. But underneath it all, a weight pressed against her ribs. Chief Mrs. Okoro, Jide's mother, stood nearby, her eyes like cold steel, her lips pursed into a polite but controlling smile. Amara whispered, "Yes." The applause erupted like fireworks. Jide slipped the ring onto her trembling finger. Yet as she admired the dazzling stone, she couldn't shake the thought that the ring wasn't just a symbol of love, it was a shackle. Later that night, away from the flashing cameras, Chief Mrs. Okoro handed her a crisp folder. "For your protection, and ours," she said smoothly. Amara opened it. The words prenuptial agreement stared back at her in bold letters. Her throat tightened. "Mama, is this really necessary?" Chief Mrs. Okoro's smile didn't waver. "My dear, in families like ours, love is precious, but wealth must be safeguarded. You'll sign it, of course. It's just a formality." Jide shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Amara forced a smile, though her stomach twisted. That night, alone in her room, she stared at the ring. It glittered, yes, but it felt unbearably heavy. Love shouldn't come with contracts, she thought. But she swallowed her doubts, for love, or what she thought was love, was worth compromise. Port Harcourt smelled of engine oil and roasted plantain that day. Amara returned home for a weekend visit, her father's workshop echoing with the rhythmic clang of hammers and the hiss of welding torches. Papa Emeka's hands, scarred and strong, moved with precision under the hood of a dented Toyota. "Ah, my sunshine!" he beamed when he saw her, wiping his hands on a rag. His smile could still melt away her worries. "How's Lagos treating you?" Amara hugged him tightly. "Lagos is Lagos," she said with a laugh. When Jide arrived later that evening, his crisp white linen shirt stood out in sharp contrast to the dusty workshop. He sniffed the air and wrinkled his nose. "Grease and smoke," he muttered under his breath. Papa Emeka chuckled, unoffended. That grease and smoke put food on the table and sent Amara to university. But Jide wasn't listening. He was already scrolling on his phone. Amara noticed and frowned. Papa's shop is more than grease. It's respect. Everyone in this community knows him. Jide looked up briefly. "Of course, babe. I didn't mean it like that. I just, it's not the kind of business our circle is used to." Papa Emeka's smile dimmed just slightly, though he said nothing. Amara's chest tightened. She saw what Jide couldn't, the years of sweat and sacrifice in her father's lined face. Why can't he see the dignity here? She wondered. That night, while helping her father lock up, she whispered, "Papa, do you think Jide looks down on us?" Papa Emeka placed a hand on her shoulder. "Child, anyone who cannot see the value in honest work is blind, not you. Remember that." A year into the marriage, Lagos felt colder despite the tropical heat. Amara's architecture projects sprawled across her desk, dream homes for clients she longed to impress. She imagined building something lasting with Jide. But Jide's world was shifting. He began disappearing on business trips. His phone buzzed at odd hours, and he would slip into the balcony to whisper. One evening, Amara walked in with 2 mugs of tea. She caught Jide speaking in a hushed tone. "Yes, baby, I miss you too," he said, his voice low. Amara froze. The mugs trembled in her hands. "Who was that?" she asked when he noticed her. He jumped. Business. Just business. Business that calls you baby? His jaw tightened. You misheard. Her eyes burned. Jide, don't lie to me. He brushed past her. You're being paranoid, Amara. I'm building something for us. Stop making drama. She stood in the middle of their sleek living room, her heart pounding. The cracks in their perfect marriage weren't just showing, they were widening. At a lavish dinner hosted in Victoria Island, the Okoro mansion buzzed with chandeliers, crystal glasses, and the scent of imported roses. Amara sat stiffly at the long mahogany table, her gown shimmering but her spirit restless. Chief Mrs. Okoro raised her glass. To family wealth, preserved for generations. Everyone cheered, except Amara. Later, when the men retreated to the study, Mrs. Okoro pulled Amara aside. Her tone was sugar-coated poison. My dear, she said, patting Amara's arm, you're beautiful, intelligent, but let's be honest, you'll never truly be one of us. Amara blinked. Excuse me. You come from humble beginnings. Charming, yes, but remember, our assets, our empire, are not for you to touch. The prenup ensures that. Amara's chest ached. Mama, I married Jide for love, not money. Mrs. Okoro smirked. So you say. But love fades. Wealth doesn't. Don't forget your place. Amara swallowed the venom, forcing a brittle smile. But inside, her heart screamed. How long will I endure this humiliation? The final blow came on a quiet Wednesday evening. Jide returned late, reeking of expensive cologne. Amara reached to hang his jacket when she noticed it. A lipstick stain, crimson against the pale fabric of his collar. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled as she searched the pockets. There it was, a hotel keycard. Eco Suites. Room 807. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She waited until he showered, then slipped out. The drive to Eco Suites was a blur of headlights and tears. At the front desk she asked, voice shaking, Room 807. The receptionist hesitated, then handed her the spare key. Amara pushed the door open. The room smelled of champagne and perfume. And there, on the bed, lay Jide, shirtless, laughing with a well-known Lego socialite draped across him. The glass in Amara's hand slipped and shattered. Both turned. Jide's face drained of color. Amara, he stammered, scrambling off the bed. Her eyes burned with betrayal. So this is your business trip? The socialite smirked lazily, unfazed. Darling, you really should have knocked. Amara's knees buckled, but rage steadied her. She turned, tears streaming, and walked away. The glittering diamond on her finger felt like a knife. The bus ride from Lagos to Port Harcourt was long, noisy, and filled with chatter from passengers. But for Amara, the world was silent. She stared out the window, tears sliding down her cheeks as blurred palm trees and villages raced past. Her marriage felt like a crumbling edifice she had foolishly designed without strong foundations. When she arrived, the familiar clangs of her father's workshop greeted her. The scent of metal, oil, and rubber filled the air, grounding her in memories of simpler times. Papa Emeka stepped out, wiping his brow with a rag. His smile faltered when he saw her swollen eyes. "My sunshine," he said softly, pulling her into a hug. "What happened?" Amara's body trembled in his arms, but she shook her head. "Nothing, Papa. I just needed to come home." He studied her face, his eyes deep pools of wisdom. He didn't push. Instead, he patted her back firmly. "You don't need to explain. Home is where you can rest." That night, she lay in her old room, surrounded by sketches taped to the walls from her university days. She buried her face in her pillow and sobbed silently. Every betrayal, every venomous word from Mrs. Okoro, every condescending laugh from Jide replayed in her mind. Papa Emeka knocked gently and pushed the door open. He didn't speak. He simply placed a tray on her bedside table, hot pepper soup, her favorite, and sat by her. Amara sniffled. "I don't want you to worry, Papa." He smiled faintly. "You are my child. Worry is part of the job description. But remember, no matter what storms come, you are stronger than you know. And you are never alone." Amara wept harder, but his presence was an anchor. She didn't tell him everything, not yet. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of safety. 2 weeks later, Jide arrived in Port Harcourt unannounced. He looked worn, but his charm hadn't faded. "Babe," he said, reaching for her hand, "I made a mistake. Don't throw us away." Amara pulled back, wary. "A mistake? Jide, you were with her. Don't insult me." He sighed dramatically. "Listen, Amara. Yes, I messed up, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. I was stupid. I was weak. But I need you. And we need to think of our future." Her heart wavered. She hated how easily his words could still sting her with hope. Jide leaned closer. "There's a major investment opportunity. Game-changing. I just need you to sign some papers to smooth things over with the banks. It's for us, Amara. For our future home, the family we talked about." He pulled out documents with neat signatures and intimidating legal jargon. Amara frowned. "Why me?" "Because you're my wife. I trust you. And you're the only one who can help me now." Her mind screamed caution. But guilt and the shadow of the prenup silenced her. She signed, her ink-stained fingers trembling. "Good girl," Jide whispered, kissing her forehead. When he left, a hollow feeling spread through her chest. Something told her she had just handed him more than signatures. She had given him another chance to wound her. Back in Lagos, the social events returned. Amara walked into a cocktail party at Eco Atlantic, her emerald gown hugging her frame. She felt eyes following her, not with admiration but pity. 2 women whispered nearby, fans covering their lips. "She's the architect's daughter, right?" "Yes." "Poor thing. Jide has been seen with that socialite everywhere." "And she still shows up at these events?" Bold. Amara clenched her fists. Later that evening, as she sipped a glass of champagne, she overheard an older man chuckle. "At least the prenup protects the Okoro family. She's just decoration." Her chest burned with humiliation. Every corner of the glittering room seemed to mock her. Jide waltzed in with his usual arrogance, greeting friends with laughter, not even acknowledging the whispers. When Amara approached him, he hissed under his breath, "Don't cause a scene, Amara. You're embarrassing me." She froze. Embarrassing him? The irony twisted inside her like a knife. That night, she returned home, stripped off the gown, and stared at herself in the mirror. She saw the tears, the exhaustion, the cracks in her smile. "No more," she whispered. "No more." It was another hot afternoon in Port Harcourt. Papa Emeka was bent over a car engine when a black SUV screeched to a halt outside the workshop. A man in a suit rushed out, clutching a heavy file. He looked out of place, sweating in the humid air. "Are you Amara Emeka?" he asked, scanning the workshop. "Yes," Amara said, stepping forward cautiously. "I'm Barrister Okachukwu. I've been trying to reach you. It's urgent." He handed her the file. "Your father asked me to safeguard certain documents. With his recent investments, things have changed." Amara blinked. "Investments? My father runs a repair shop." The lawyer shook his head. "Not just that. He's a silent partner in an oil servicing technology venture. One that just broke through with massive patents. He is a billionaire." The file slipped from her trembling hands. "What?" Papa Emeka looked up from under the hood, his face calm, almost amused. "Papa," Amara whispered. He wiped his hands and walked over. "I never wanted the money to define us. That's why I kept it quiet. I wanted you to value people for who they are, not what they have." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "All this time?" Papa Emeka nodded. "All this time," the lawyer continued, "and now, Ms. Emeka, you are the sole heir." The world tilted. Everything Jide mocked, everything Mrs. Okoro sneered at, her humble background, was nothing but a mask for the empire her father had built. A week later, Amara sat in the lawyer's office. The mahogany table was polished to perfection, but her hands shook as she touched the thick document before her. "This is your father's will," Barrister Okachukwu explained gently. "He left it all to you. His shares in the company, the patents, the accounts. Everything." Amara whispered. Why me alone? Her father, seated beside her, smiled with quiet pride. Because you carry both my name and my values. I know you will not squander it. You will build with it. Tears blurred her vision. Papa, I don't even know where to begin. He squeezed her hand. Begin with your heart. Remember the community. Remember the dignity of work. And never let anyone belittle you again. At that moment, the prenup flashed in her mind. The irony made her laugh through her tears. Papa, she said, the prenup, it means none of this touches G-Day. It's all mine. Her father raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps the trap they set for you will become the net that catches them. Amara sat back, a fire sparking in her chest. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel broken. She felt powerful. The law office smelled of leather and polished wood, the kind of place designed to intimidate. Amara sat across from Sophia, her newly hired lawyer. Sophia was sharp-eyed, with a voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Sophia flipped through the prenuptial agreement, lips curling into a smirk. Well, well. This is rich. Literally. Amara leaned forward. What do you mean? Sophia tapped the clause with a manicured nail. Here. Any assets acquired independently by either party during the marriage shall remain the sole property of that individual. Your husband's family insisted on this to protect their fortune. But in doing so, they've locked themselves out of yours. Amara blinked. So everything Papa left me is yours alone. A slow, incredulous laugh escaped Amara's throat. The very chain they bound me with has set me free. Sophia leaned back, her eyes gleaming. Oh, darling, it's more than freedom. It's leverage. You're holding the cards now. And when G-Day realizes, he'll choke on his own greed. Amara imagined his arrogant face paling when he found out. The thought gave her strength. Then let's play this carefully. I don't want revenge to consume me, but I won't let him walk away untouched. Sophia's smile sharpened. Good. Because justice tastes better when served cold. The Okoro mansion was a fortress of glass and stone. G-Day sat at his mahogany desk, scrolling through his phone, when the knock came. Come in, he said lazily. A court clerk stepped forward. Mr. G-Day Okoro, you've been served. He placed the envelope on the desk and left. G-Day frowned, tore it open, and froze. Divorce papers. The room spun. He grabbed his phone and dialed furiously. Mother! Amara filed for divorce. Minutes later, Chief Mrs. Okoro's voice exploded through the speaker. What nonsense is this? After everything we did to protect our wealth, she dares. She dares. G-Day snapped, pacing. Mother, she's serious. She hired a lawyer. Mrs. Okoro's fury crackled like fire. Put her on the phone. No. Amara was in Port Harcourt when the call came. She answered calmly. Mama! You ungrateful girl! Mrs. Okoro thundered. You schemed this from the beginning, didn't you? You plotted to trap my son, to infiltrate our family. Amara's voice was steady, cool. The only plot was yours, Mama. You wrote it into a contract, remember? Silence. Then a low growl. You'll regret crossing me. Amara ended the call with trembling fingers, but her heart surged with newfound courage. The next morning, Amara's phone buzzed endlessly. Calls, texts, voicemails, all from G-Day. Amara, please, just hear me out. Babe, I was stupid, but we can fix this. Don't let outsiders ruin what we built. Finally, against her better judgment, she answered. G-Day. His voice cracked with desperation. Amara, I messed up. I know I did. But you can't just throw away everything we've shared. Amara laughed bitterly. Everything we've shared? Lies, betrayal, humiliation? You used me as a pawn in your game, G-Day. No, listen. That was before. Now I realize what we had. You're my wife, my future. She cut him off. Stop. The only future I want is one without you. You never loved me, G-Day. You loved what you thought you could take from me. He was silent, then whispered, Please. Don't do this. Her voice was firm. It's already done. She hung up, her hands steady. For the first time, she wasn't the broken one. News traveled fast in Lagos high society. Jide Okoro, once the golden prince of privilege, was falling. His investments, reckless, desperate, had collapsed like dominoes. The divorce only made it worse. Creditors circled. The press feasted. At a public auction, his prized possessions went under the hammer. The luxury apartment in Banana Island, gone. The fleet of sports cars, gone. Even his vintage Rolex collection, snatched up by eager bidders. Amara didn't attend, but Sophia sent her updates. The mighty are falling, Sophia said over the phone, a hint of satisfaction in her tone. Amara closed her eyes. She pictured Jide standing helplessly as strangers claimed his treasures. A pang of sadness flickered. She had once dreamed of sharing that world with him. But now she saw it clearly. His empire was built on sand. When the auctioneer's gavel fell for the last time, Jide was left with little more than his name. And even that was tarnished. With Jide fading into the shadows, Amara turned her gaze to the light. Her inheritance wasn't just money, it was possibility. She poured her energy into her architecture firm, designing not just skyscrapers for the wealthy, but sustainable housing for everyday Nigerians. Her blueprints combined beauty with purpose, echoing the values her father had instilled. One evening, she stood in her office, gazing at a scale model of a community housing project. Adekunle, her lead architect, looked over her shoulder. "This will change lives," he said quietly. Amara smiled. "That's the goal. Papa always said wealth means nothing if it doesn't lift others." She also launched the Papa Emeka Foundation, funding vocational training for young mechanics, welders, and artisans. At the ribbon cutting, tears filled her eyes as she addressed the crowd. "My father built with his hands and his heart. This foundation ensures his spirit lives on, in every life we touch." The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed. But in Amara's heart, the loudest cheer came from Papa Emeka himself, watching proudly from the sidelines. That night, as she looked out over Port Harcourt, she whispered, "I survived. I built. And this time, no one can take it away." Chief Mrs. Victoria Okoro had once ruled Lagos high society with an iron fist wrapped in pearls. Her soirees were legendary, her opinion carried weight, and her approval could make or break reputations. But after the scandal with Jide and Amara's divorce, the tide shifted. At a charity gala she attended in Victoria Island, conversations hushed as she entered. Once, eyes followed her with admiration. Now, they trailed with disdain and curiosity. "Isn't that the woman who forced her son's wife to sign a prenup?" one whispered. "Yes," another replied with a chuckle. "And now the wife is richer than all of them combined." Victoria's smile was tight, her pearls suffocating against her throat. She approached a table of old acquaintances, but their laughter stilled. Invitations to luncheons dwindled. Calls went unanswered. One evening, sitting alone in her vast dining room, she slammed her glass on the table. "This is temporary," she hissed to herself. "I am Chief Mrs. Okoro. They will respect me again." But deep down, she knew, her reign was over. The empire she tried to protect had crumbled, and her name was now synonymous with arrogance and failure. It began as whispers in glossy magazines, then spread like wildfire across social media. Exposed, Jide Okoro and the Socialite Affair. Exclusive interview, he promised me the world, but left me with lies. The socialite, no longer content with secrecy, sold her story to the highest bidder. In a televised interview, she painted Jide as a manipulative, entitled playboy who used her just as he had used Amara. "He told me his wife was cold, unloving," she said with a smirk. But really, he was the one desperate for status. He even bragged about tricking her into signing financial papers. The interviewer leaned in. "And what about his business deals?" She laughed bitterly. "Deals? Please. They were scams dressed up as investments. Everyone knows it now." The fallout was catastrophic. Business partners withdrew, creditors demanded repayment, and Jide's name became a meme, a cautionary tale. On Twitter, hashtags trended. Hashtag Okoro scandal. Hashtag from prince to pawn. Jide's phone rang non-stop, not with support, but with accusations. One night, he hurled it across the room, shattering it against the wall. "Liars!" he screamed, though he knew every word was true. Amara's world, meanwhile, was blossoming. Her architecture firm thrived, her foundation grew, and her presence in the community made her a respected figure. One afternoon, she stood at a construction site, her hair tied back, boots caked with mud. Adekunle, her colleague, walked beside her, pointing out details on the blueprint. "You see this section?" he asked, gesturing at a structural column. "We could use local bamboo composites here. Sustainable, affordable, and it'll give jobs to local suppliers." Amara's eyes lit up. "Exactly the kind of innovation we need. Adekunle, you think like Papa did." They shared a quiet smile. Over months, their bond deepened, not in the fiery, reckless way it had been with Jide, but with patience, respect, and shared dreams. One evening, after a long day, Adekunle surprised her with roasted corn and groundnut by the waterfront. Amara laughed. "You brought me street food on a date?" "Not a date," he said with a grin. "A partnership meeting. But if it turns into more, I won't complain." She chuckled, warmth flooding her chest. For the first time, love didn't feel like a trap. It felt like home. The vocational training center stood gleaming under the Port Harcourt sun, its walls painted in vibrant blues and yellows, adorned with murals of mechanics, welders, and artisans at work. A massive crowd gathered for the inauguration. Government officials, students, and community members filled the courtyard. Cameras flashed as Amara stepped onto the podium. Her voice was steady, full of emotion. "My father, Emeka, was a simple man with calloused hands and a heart full of dreams. He believed that dignity lay in honest work, and that true wealth was in helping others rise. Today, his legacy lives on through this center." The crowd erupted in applause. Papa Emeka, standing nearby, dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief. "My sunshine," he whispered proudly. Cutting the ribbon, Amara felt a swell of triumph. Young men and women streamed into the building, eager to learn trades that would change their lives. Reporters swarmed her afterward. "Miss Emeka, how does it feel to be one of Nigeria's most influential young philanthropists?" Amara smiled softly. "It's not about influence. It's about impact. And this is just the beginning." Years later, in a dingy apartment in Surulere, Jide sat slumped in front of a flickering television. His once immaculate hair was unkempt, his clothes rumpled. On the screen, Amara appeared, graceful, radiant, being interviewed on an international news network. "Amara Emeka," the anchor said, "your architectural firm has just won the Global Design Award for Sustainable Community Projects. And your foundation continues to transform lives across Africa. What drives you?" Amara's smile was serene. "My father's values. And the belief that wealth means nothing unless it uplifts others." The audience applauded. Jide's throat tightened. He leaned forward, staring at the woman who had once been his wife. She was everything he had failed to see: strength, compassion, brilliance. He whispered hoarsely, "That should have been my future." But it wasn't. He had gambled away love, squandered trust, and underestimated the very woman he sought to use. On the screen, Amara laughed with quiet joy, her eyes alight with purpose. To the world, she was a visionary. To Jide, she was the haunting reminder of what he had lost forever. And as he sat alone, the bitter taste of regret filled his mouth. The end.